Auto-anglais. Advanced level. Cassette 1, side A. Welcome to Auto-anglais. We're going to take you around the United States and Britain to listen to reports and interviews on a variety of people and places. The cassettes are at an advanced level, so you'll hear people talking with different accents and at different speeds. So fasten your seatbelts and get on the road to English.
On this side, we talk to the best-selling novelist and politician Jeffrey Archer, and we hear about eating habits in the United States. But first, we take a look at why American businesswomen are so successful.
What It Takes is the title of a revealing book based on interviews with 100 of America's most successful businesswomen. Michelle and David went to Los Angeles and spoke to the book's authors, Anita Rowe and Lee Garden-Schwartz. David asked Anita to describe the factors of success.
The first of the factors is what we call magnificent obsession, and that's absolutely being passionate and loving what you do. The second one is being four-wheel driven, and that talks about the drive and the motivation and the need and the desire to achieve. And that depends on the four wheels, which are challenge, change, freedom, and meaning. And we found those at the heart of the drive of all of these women. The third is megavision, and that means having a huge vision and seeing possibilities every place, and then having what we call chutzpah, the guts, to make this happen, to take risks. The fourth is no excuses, just results, which means don't let anything stop you. Where there's a will, there's a way. I'm going to get through. And finally, practical magic, which has to do with the way that you work with people and the way that you sell your ideas to people and getting them to see what's in it for them, and learning from all of your experiences so that everything becomes a training ground for the next experience you have. And we use these all through the project.
Everybody at one time or another deals with the issue of success and what is success. How would you describe the woman who's got what it takes?
I think it has to do with loving your work. It has to do with being able to pursue and accomplish the goals you set for yourself and being able to get beyond the obstacles that are there, kind of breaking your own limits. Freedom to make the choices that you want in your life.
What were the qualities and what were the stories that you found most interesting and most unsuspecting?
Well, let me answer what I found most surprising, and interestingly enough, it's not necessarily the 5 characteristics that we found. I was interested in the quality of the people's lives, and what was shocking to me is the kind of fun they have. And their lives are so full. We were just shocked at the places they put their energy. You sometimes think they had to be up 25 hours a day or 48 hours a day just to put their energy in all the places. That was real shocking to me, that their lives had such breadth and such joy, and that they were so full of energy and enthusiasm.
What impact has your work and your book had on men?
Often men come to the seminars to hear us, and they'll kind of tug at our sleeves before we start and say, do you think I should really be here? Because your interview base was women. And is there anything for me to learn? And at the end, they'll say, this is true for me too, or this is true for men. It goes across the board. But also another comment often is, gee, I want to buy this book for my wife because she needs to hear this, or she needs to see this because she's not satisfied in her job, or she could use some of this message, or now I understand my wife better. I could never figure out why she was so achievement-oriented, why work was so important to her. Now it's clicking for me.
What is the major obstacle for women to be successful in a business situation?
The obstacles varied, but I would say that with them there were no obstacles. For example, gender could have been an obstacle. It was. There were some really kind of archaic examples of ill treatment, and it didn't matter. The women got beyond them anyway. There were people who had polio, people who were orphaned young. There were all kinds of problems that people had. One woman was raising children while she was on welfare and her husband was in prison. The obstacles ranged from everything you could imagine, and the point is, they didn't let themselves be stopped. They just said, look, everybody's got something to deal with. And what if you want to be successful, you check out the lay of the land, you learn the game, and you play by the rules, and you get ahead. And you just don't let things stop you.
Now, how well did you understand some of the expressions that were used? Listen to some of them again and choose and repeat the right definition. Then listen to the example.
And the way that you sell your ideas to people and getting them to see what's in it for them.
Repeat. What's in it for them? Does this mean what the benefit is for them?
What it will involve for them.
What the benefit is for them. What's in it for them? What the benefit is for them. For example,
I can see what you'll get out of the deal, but how will I benefit from it?
I can see what's in the deal for you, but what's in it for me? Now you use what's in it in the sentence.
Is there any advantage in this situation for John?
What's in it for John? And another expression.
How would you describe the woman who's got what it takes?
Repeat. Who's got what it takes? Does this mean who's got enough diplomas?
Who's got the right qualities?
Who's got the right qualities? Who's got what it takes? Who's got the right qualities? For example,
She's got all the right qualities to get to the top.
she's got what it takes to get to the top. Now you use to have got what it takes to change this sentence.
Do you think he's equipped to be a leader?
Do you think he's got what it takes to be a leader? Now listen again to the 5 factors of success.
The first of the factors is what we call magnificent obsession, and that's absolutely being passionate and loving what you do.
Repeat. Magnificent obsession. Being passionate and loving what you do.
The second one is being four-wheel driven, and that talks about the drive and the motivation and the need and the desire to achieve.
Repeat. Being 4-wheel driven. If you are 4-wheel driven, you have the drive, the motivation, the need, and the desire. Repeat. The drive, the motivation, the need, the desire.
The third is megavision, and that means having a huge vision.
Repeat. Megavision. Having a huge vision.
The fourth is no excuses, just results, which means don't let anything stop you.
Repeat. No excuses, just results.
And finally, practical magic, which has to do with the way that you work with people.
Repeat. Practical magic. Now repeat again the 5 factors. Magnificent obsession. Being 4-wheel driven. Megavision. No excuses, just results. Practical magic. Now, can you find find the word or words which match these definitions. For example, if you are passionate and love what you do, you have a magnificent obsession. Now you do it. If you have drive, motivation, the need and the desire, you are four-wheel driven.
If you don't make apologies but just do things well, you say to yourself, no excuses, just results.
If you have a huge vision and can see a lot of possibilities, you have megavision.
And if you work really well with people and can sell your ideas, you have a special quality. Practical magic.
Now listen to some more expressions.
What we call chutzpah.
Repeat. Chutzpah. Does this mean self-confident courage?
Talent.
Self-confident courage. Chutzpah. Self-confident courage. Sometimes impudence. You can also say guts. She's got a lot of chutzpah. She's got a lot of guts. She's very courageous.
It goes across the board.
Repeat. It goes across the board. Does this mean it's generally true?
It's top level.
It's generally true. It goes across the board. It's generally true or affects the whole situation. For example,
We'll have to make reductions of 15% across the board.
I could never figure out why she was so achievement-oriented, why work was so important to her. Now it's clicking for me.
repeat. I could never figure out. Does this mean I could never understand?
I could never accept.
I could never understand. To figure out. To understand. For example,
Can you figure out these instructions?
The obstacles ranged from everything you could imagine.
repeat. To range from. Does this mean to be complicated?
To vary.
To vary. To range. To vary. For example,
The company's products range from food to books.
If you want to be successful, you check out the lay of the land.
repeat. To check out the lay of the land. Does this mean to assess the situation?
To study geography.
To assess the situation. To check out the lay of the land. To assess the situation. For example,
You should always check out the lay of the land before starting a new project. Jeffrey Archer is a world-famous storyteller, the author of several novels which have all been international bestsellers. He also became the youngest member of Parliament when he won a Conservative seat in the House of Commons at the age of 29. From 1985 to 1986, he worked under Mrs. Thatcher as Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. But his life has not been an uninterrupted success story. At one time, he lost all of his money to a dishonest investor, an experience which he drew on to write his first novel. At another time, he was accused of being involved in a sex scandal, an accusation which later proved false. Vivienne interviewed him in his flat overlooking the Thames near Westminster and asked him about some of the ups and downs in his life.
The way you started out writing, to me, it's an extraordinary story. I believe it was at a time when you were in great financial difficulty. Did you set out to write a bestseller and make a lot of money?
Nobody can set out to write a bestseller and make a lot of money, otherwise you would. Otherwise everybody listening to this program would. Otherwise, everybody doing a normal job would. You can't do it. And it's a myth for anyone to pretend you can. You sit down and write the book you're most capable of writing. If millions of people buy it, it's called a bestseller. And that's a piece of luck.
Do you work out your plots in advance?
No, I never know what's on the next page, never know what's on the next chapter, never know how it will end. If I know, you will know. And I'm determined you won't know. And the only way I can be sure you don't know is if I don't know myself. I've only ever had 2 letters in 12 years saying I could tell the ending. And I had to write back and say congratulations because I couldn't.
About your own life, at least twice in your life, you've been in situations that I think would make most people want to give up. And yet each time you've bounced back and you seem to have triumphed over failure. What qualities do you think you have that have enabled you to go from success to success?
I think probably energy is vital and much underestimated. Talent is very useful, and I've never denied the value of talent. But energy, if you're ever going to reach the top in anything, is the most important thing. If you look at Picasso, you look at Maria Callas, you look at Yehudi Menuhin, the one thing all 3 of them have in common is tremendous energy. I'm sure there were artists as great as Picasso, singers as great as Callas, and violin players as great as Menuhin. But are they willing to put the hours in, to put the work in, and to apply themselves in the way those 3 did? And I have always said to everyone, if you want to achieve something in life, it requires tremendous energy and determination.
Well, we're talking about all these different activities you have and all the energy that you need. Do you ever just sit back and just have fun, or do nothing, or relax, or turn off?
Never. I'm quite incapable of lying on a beach, letting the sun bake me. If that's what you're asking, I'm not capable of it. I'm bored by that in about 20 minutes. And actually bored even before I lie down because I know I'm going to be bored in 20 minutes. But that's not my fault. There's nothing I can do about that. I once had a wonderful letter from a man who had read that I was only interested in work and that I really didn't like holidays. And he wrote and said to me, I'm only interested in holidays and I don't really like work. Perhaps you could send me 100,000 a year and I could write to you once a year and tell you what a wonderful holiday I've had, and then you could gain the pleasure from knowing that someone had had your holiday for you.
Now listen to some of the expressions that were used in the interview.
Did you set out to write a bestseller and make a lot of money?
Repeat.
To set out.
Does this mean?
To plan.
To succeed.
To plan.
To set out to do something, to plan it. For example,
In the beginning, he wanted to be an engineer.
He set out to be an engineer.
now you transform the sentences to use set out.
She didn't mean to go into business.
She didn't set out to go into business.
His goal was to become a politician.
He set out to become a politician.
His destination was San Francisco.
He set out for San Francisco.
Now listen again.
And yet each time you've bounced back.
Repeat.
To bounce back.
Does this mean?
To get into a very bad situation.
To return with energy after a bad experience.
To return with energy after a bad experience.
To bounce back. To return with energy after a bad experience. For example,
The stock market bounced back after the 1987 crisis.
But are they willing to put the hours in?
repeat.
To put the hours in.
Does this mean?
To be ready to do a lot of work.
To count all the time spent on something.
To be ready to do a lot of work.
To put the hours in. To be ready to do a lot of work. For example,
We'll never complete the project unless we work really hard on it.
We'll never complete the project unless we put the hours in.
Now you transform the sentence using put the hours in.
She got to the top because she worked extremely hard. She got to the top because she put the hours in.
Do you ever just sit back and just have fun?
Repeat.
To sit back.
Does this mean
To do nothing. To control things from behind the scenes. To do nothing.
to sit back, to relax and do nothing? For example,
You can't expect just to relax and let me do all the work.
You can't expect just to sit back and let me do all the work.
now you transform the sentence to use sit back.
I love to relax with a good book. I love to sit back with a good book.
And listen again.
Do you ever just sit back and just have fun, or do nothing, or relax, or turn off?
Repeat.
To turn off.
Does this mean
To forget about everything. To change tactics. To forget about everything.
to turn off, to forget about everything? For example,
When I leave the office, I forget about work completely.
When I leave the office, I turn off completely.
now you do it.
The only way to forget about everything is to take a long holiday. The only way to turn off is to take a long holiday.
Now listen to some other meanings of the verb to turn.
To turn in, to turn out, to turn up.
Listen again to the prepositions.
In, out, up.
Now use one of these to complete the sentences when you hear the sound signal. For example,
Can you turn the project by the end of the month? In. Can you turn in the project by the end of the month? To turn in. To give in.
now you do it.
In the end, everything turned okay. Out. In the end, everything turned out okay. To turn out. To finally become. He finally turned at 11 o'clock. Up. He finally turned up at 11 o'clock. To turn up. To arrive. Now let's go back to Jeffrey Archer to hear a final word from him on one of his favorite subjects, France. If you're French and you're driving, you'd better pull over to the side of the road before you listen to what he has to say.
It's a beautiful nation, far too good for the French. I've long believed that there is no God, on the grounds that if there was, he'd have given France to the British and given the French Britain. But there you are, you get the warmer country, you get the better country, and we will have to face it out over here. I love the food, and of course I love the wine. You've taught the British how to cook. 10 years ago in this country, you could find half a dozen good restaurants. Now you'll find 200 or 300. And I believe that's a direct influence of the French on this nation. 10, 20 years ago, very few people drank wine. Now I understand it's the most popular drink in Britain. That's, again, tremendous influence of the French nation. We've always been what I would call fun enemies, as opposed to real enemies. But I love France itself, and I like the French people, and I am envious of your warmth and your country in many ways. But underneath, you're still second to Britain.
Now listen to another expression.
But there you are, you get the warmer country.
Repeat.
There you are.
Does this mean
You are in a certain position. You can't change the situation. You can't change the situation.
there you are? You can't change the situation. For example,
I'm sorry, but there you are. It's too late to do anything about it.
I've long believed that there is no God, on the grounds that if there was, he'd have given France to the British.
repeat.
On the grounds that.
Does this mean
Because of. In in this situation? Because of.
On the grounds that, or on the grounds of, because of. For example,
She divorced him on the grounds of cruelty.
and now for a little grammar practice. Listen again to the sentence.
I've long believed that there is no God, on the grounds that if there was, he'd have given France to the British.
Repeat.
If there was a God, he'd have given France to the British.
Here we use if and then would have to show that it's an impossible situation. It could have happened, but it didn't. Listen to the example.
More energy, more successful. If he'd had more energy, he'd have been more successful.
Now you do it.
More talent, write a bestseller. If he'd had more talent, he'd have written a bestseller. Feel tired? Take a holiday. If he'd felt tired, he'd have taken a holiday. Speak English? Get a better job. If he'd spoken English, he'd have got a better job. If you get hungry in New York, go into any restaurant and you'll get good big portions to satisfy your hunger. And you may well get drawn into conversation. The waiters and waitresses we met were very open and friendly and were more than happy to talk. Our first encounter was with Honey, a waitress in a restaurant on Broadway. Well, it turned out that, like many of her colleagues, she wasn't exactly a waitress.
How long have you been waitressing? Actually, I'm a waitress in disguise. I'm really an actress, you know. You can't tell because I'm not like on any TV shows yet. But I'm on this one TV show. If you happen to be up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in New York and you have cable TV, I'm on this diet program called Look at Me Now. I actually lost 30 pounds. You can't tell it now, see? I gave up sugar. I gave up sweets. I love sweets. And I didn't eat too much meat, and I cut out all the gravy. And I tell you, it really worked. I lost 30 pounds in 15 weeks.
Is eating a problem for Americans?
Oh, yes. Let me hold this microphone, honey. Let me tell you, Americans love to eat. I tell you, it's the American way, food.
Well, honey, you said Americans pig on food. How about French food?
Oh, please. I tell you, I went to this little French restaurant and they gave me 3 string beans and they gave me these little thin potatoes and they gave me a piece of meat that I could like see through. And I asked him, I said, like, is this my dinner? And he goes, oui, mademoiselle. And I'm like, take me to McDonald's when we leave here because I am still hungry. And I tell you something, you know, I like the way the French serve you, but they just don't give you enough.
Now, how well did you understand some of the words and expressions that Honey used? Listen.
I'm on this diet program called Look at Me Now.
Repeat. A diet. To go on a diet. If you go on a diet, do you take a lot of exercise?
Eat less to lose weight.
You eat less to lose weight. For example,
He just ate carrots and rice for a week.
he went on a carrot and rice diet for a week. Now you use to go on a diet in the sentence.
The best way to lose weight is to become a vegetarian.
The best way to lose weight is to go on a vegetarian diet. And another expression.
If you happen to be up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in New York,
Repeat. If you happen to be up
Does this mean you decided to get out of bed?
By chance, you haven't gone to bed yet.
By chance, you haven't gone to bed yet. You happen to do something. You do something by chance. For example,
Can you get me some stamps if by chance you pass a post office?
can you get me some stamps if you happen to pass a post office? Now you use happen to change these sentences.
If you see John by chance, invite him to dinner.
If you happen to see John, invite him to dinner. And another expression.
I actually lost 30 pounds.
Repeat. I actually lost 30 pounds. Does this mean I really lost 30 pounds?
I've lost 30 pounds so far.
I really lost 30 pounds. Actually. Really. For example,
Do you really think he'll come?
do you actually think he'll come? Now you use actually in the sentences.
Do you really think he'll call her?
Do you actually think he'll call her?
Do you know, it's true, he paid the restaurant bill.
Do you know he actually paid the restaurant bill? Now, Honey is a very lively lady with a southern accent, and she uses a strong intonation. Listen again and repeat.
I love sweets. I like the way the French serve you, but they just don't give you enough.
Now notice how Honey uses the word like when she's thinking of what to say next.
Because I'm not like on any TV shows yet. And they gave me a piece of meat that I could like see through. And I asked them, I said, like, is this my dinner?
If you go to the States, you'll hear that little word like all the time when people are trying to think of what they're going to say next or looking for an example. Now, listen to how Honey describes losing weight.
I gave up sugar. I gave up sweets. I love sweets. And I didn't eat too much meat, and I cut out all the gravy.
Repeat. I gave up sugar. I cut out gravy. To give up and to cut out. To stop. Listen.
He coughs all the time. Give up.
He should give up smoking. Now you give advice using give up or cut out.
He's always getting drunk. Give up.
He should give up drinking.
Coffee makes him very nervous. Cut out.
He should cut out coffee.
Every time he sees his ex-wife, he comes back in a bad mood. Give up.
He should give up seeing his ex-wife. End of side A.